All right, back with another tier list. I did one of these for the Super Bowl of ranking each Super Bowl loss in terms of devastatingness, I guess. But I figured, you know what? Sometimes the conference championship games are just as devastating. You're so close to the Super Bowl, you can taste it, but don't even get to say that you made the Super Bowl, so you don't even get that. So figured this could be fun. I also should mention that I do have a movie channel if you're interested in that kind of thing. I do movie reviews, stuff like that. So link is in the description for that if you're interested. But without further adu, let's just get into the tier list. We're going to alternate NFC and AFC, starting off with the first out of 4 Green Bay Packers NFC Championship game losses that they've had in the past 10 years. In this one, probably the toughest. So this was the Seattle Seahawks game that the Packers just had the game won basically and just could not do anything right. It felt like for that entire fourth quarter. I mean, there were just so many moments where the Seahawks felt like they were dead and just kept getting things to work. They had the fake field goal touchdown, which that was earlier in the game. But then even later on, Russell Wilson throws an interception, his fourth of the day. And then I think it was Clinton-Dix, if I remember correctly, just slides down even though he had more room to run. There was just obviously the Brandon Bostic failed onside kick recovery was the biggest one. People forget that Aaron Rodgers actually drove them down the field on an injured leg to tie the game and force overtime, but Seahawks, won the toss, won it right off the bat. This keeps you up at night. This is a tough one. That there's no coming back from that one. I feel like that one was pretty devastating. So then bouncing over to the AFC, this one wasn't so bad. So this was the deflated balls game, if you remember. This was the game that the Patriots won 45-7. The Colts kind of, I don't want to say had a complete Cinderella run, but it was a pretty big Cinderella run. This was, with Andrew Luck, they were able to get all the way to the conference championship game. It felt like they didn't have a complete roster, and it really felt like the Patriots were the better team, so they were underdogs heading in. I'm not sure if people expected this kind of a blowout, but, it was tough. At the time, though, we thought, hey, future's still bright. You have Andrew Luck. I don't think we realized that this would be kind of the last time they would have a real shot. So I think at the time, this was a year okay. Although in hindsight, I think it's gone a little bit worse. So that's how I view that. And then you have the Cardinals, who got crushed by the Panthers. There was kind of a stretch where there were just blowouts constantly in the conference championship game. That's kind of what happened here with the Cardinals, who felt like the Panthers just from the word go, had it. They just felt like they were the better team. So it was disappointing after the Cardinals' crazy divisional win with the, Larry Fitzgerald magic in overtime after Rodgers' Hail Marys to force overtime. I think this is going to be, I'll put it a little bit higher than you're okay. I'll put it in still devastating because, you knew Carson Palmer wasn't going to be playing forever. And again, the fact that they, you didn't know how, you thought that might have been their only opportunity and ended up kind of being that way. So, yeah, I'll say still devastating. Then the Patriots, so this is interesting, right? Because the Patriots, on paper, this is a very devastating loss. They essentially lost an AFC championship game due to a missed field goal. The missed field goal, or missed extra point, I should say. The missed extra point caused them to be down 2, or down 8, I should say, instead of 7. They scored a touchdown, but as time expired, but could not get the 2-point conversion to win it that way. And I think that given the fact that the Broncos were able to kind of really handle the Panthers, I'm sure Patriots fans feel like it would have gone the same way, and I'm sure Panthers fans feel like it wouldn't have. But the game was tough, and losing to Peyton Manning and giving him a second Super Bowl ring is probably even tougher than losing itself for Patriots fans. But again, the Patriots have had so much success. They had plenty of success, including winning a Super Bowl just the year prior. I'm going to say still devastating, but I can't go worse than that. Then we have another Packers conference championship game loss. But this one, they were not favored to win at all. This was against Atlanta, who was pretty heavily favored in this game. Granted, the Packers have had this Cinderella run where they ran the table. That was the whole slogan of that year. They won the last 6 games or so, won the division. They beat the Giants in the wild card round. Aaron Rodgers throws another Hail Mary in that game at the end of the half. Then you have the divisional round, big underdogs against the Cowboys. are able to pull out that victory. That's something I've sounds vaguely familiar to me. Then they get to the Falcons, and it just felt like they ran out of gas. The Falcons were the better team. Took 8 guys to tackle Julio Jones every time he got the ball. It seems like this is one that you can kind of live with. It's still, there's of course no such thing as a conference championship game loss that you're like, when you're okay doesn't mean you actually have no problem losing. They all suck, but I think this is you're okay. I think that this is, in terms of how devastating they are, this isn't one that's going to keep you up at night. So then we have the same year we had the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe that's the same year. Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers, who I'm sure we're disappointed that they keep getting crushed by the Patriots. This is that era where they just couldn't seem to get past New England. But again, the Patriots were kind of the better team. I think the frustrating thing, because going in, it felt, could this be the year the Steelers do it? So I think it's a little, it's kind of still devastating just because losing to the Patriots probably made it tougher. But as a whole, they just weren't the better team. What are you going to do? So I think usually it's less devastating, for me at least, when you lose to a better team. Then you have the Vikings. The Vikings are interesting because, the Vikings were favored to win this game, even though they were the road team, because Nick Foles was playing, and people, this was before Nick Foles had really turned it up another gear, which he would do the final 2 games of the season. The Vikings had just managed to get past the Saints, which many people thought was the real conference championship game, and then for them to, really just go and kind of lay an egg against the Eagles, that was honestly shocking. I thought the Vikings were going to win the Super Bowl that year, and the Super Bowl was in Minnesota, so they could have been the first team ever to win a Super Bowl at home. I think because the game itself was a blowout, I'm going to put it not in the top one, but instead still can't watch highlights, but the situation around it was about as devastating of a loss as it can get. It's just the game itself, you knew it wasn't going to happen pretty early on. Then you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who Miles Jack wasn't down. Let's just be honest. They, maybe should have won that game, had a real opportunity to, defeat the New England Patriots, and this was kind of their one shot. They haven't really had an opportunity to really get back. They've been to a divisional round since then, but this is the closest they've been really to winning a Super Bowl, I would say. Getting that close to beating the Patriots, who, it could have happened. They could have found a way to win it all for sure, but didn't end up working out. Again, who knows? This is the year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, so who knows if the Jaguars would have won. But the defense was loaded. They had a real opportunity, and I think due to the close loss nature of it, I'm also going to put this in still can't watch highlights. I think that feels fair for me. Next up is the New Orleans Saints. This was the famous no-call game, and I think people forget, though, it wasn't just the no-call. They had opportunities after that to win, too. Goff had to drive down the field and get a game-tying field goal, and he was able to do it. They then, the Saints won the coin toss and got the ball in overtime, and then, there was the interception where Breeze was hit as he was thrown. The Rams had to kick a 57-yard field goal to win. Had they missed that, the Saints would have had good field position, probably still go to the Super Bowl, and no one talks about that no call. And then there's just a no call. This keeps you up at night. It's just a devastating moment, and this was the closest, really, the Saints came. I mean, you could look at the Minneapolis Miracle. Maybe they could have won it all that year, but the Eagles were really good. You had the Buccaneers year where they nearly beat the Buccaneers. Packers were very good. Chiefs were very good. No guarantee they win it this year either, but given the way that Super Bowl played out with the Patriots and Rams, I think people thought the Saints might have been the team to win it that year. Just didn't happen. So, yeah, that was tough. And then you have the, same year, the Chiefs lost to the New England Patriots. This was before we would know that the Chiefs would go on to, ultimately win 3 out of the next 5 Super Bowls after this year and go to 4 out of the next 5. So, you're feeling okay if you're a Chiefs fan for sure. That being said, this was at the time was a very tough loss. I don't think it's quite keeps you up at night because, again, you have had so much success since then. Honestly, now you probably even almost look back on it fondly a little bit as a Chiefs fan because it was kind of the origin story of Mahomes. I do think losing to Brady probably stinks. I'm going to put it in still devastating. Had the Chiefs not yet won a Super Bowl, it would be higher, but since they've won a handful since then, this feels fair for me. So then we would have this is Packers part 3 now when they lost to the 49ers. A lot of people kind of felt like even though the Packers were 13-3, the numbers were a bit inflated. Like maybe they weren't quite that good. A lot of people thought the 49ers would win this game pretty handedly, and that's really what happened. So again, it's probably frustrating as a Packers fan. Like we keep getting close and can't get it done. So that aspect, I think, is enough to put it in the still devastating. But it wasn't you lost to a better team. It kind of is what it is. And for the Titans, I'm kind of putting that in a similar thing. Now, the Titans do have a history of playing the Chiefs tough. So I think that many Titans fans thought that this could be they could get to the, win this game. It was such a Cinderella story, though. I don't know. I'm actually even going to put this in you're okay. I don't think that was the most devastating conference championship game loss of all time, even though, again, still very tough. We then have the Packers part 4 against Tampa Bay, and this one just stings. Because the other ones, these two, again, not fun, but you can live with. You can, accept the fact that you lost those 2 games. The Buccaneers, it's the Tom Brady argument, which, there is, especially, I think before this game, there still was a pretty large contingent of people that say, Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. Not a massive group, but that is that group, and, most of them are Packers fans. So getting an opportunity to beat Tom Brady on the way to getting to a Super Bowl and winning it. They're favored. They're finally at home because all these other ones were on the road. They get one at home, and it's here we go. Let's win it all right here. And it just didn't happen. And they made dumb mistakes, like leaving Kevin King on Scotty Miller one-on-one, with only a single safety deep with 8 seconds left that allowed for that Hail Mary at the end of the half to Brady. That was stupid. They had turnovers early on, and then when Brady started throwing an interception every drive, weren't able to capitalize. And of course, the kicking a field goal instead of going for it on 4th down, which is still a decision I don't love. You factor all that stuff in, this is one that I think keeps you up at night, especially because this was the last chance they really had with, I shouldn't say it's the last chance they had with Rodgers, because they did get the 1 seed the following year, but get knocked out in the divisional round. But this is one that was tough. So yeah, a couple of Packers make the keeps you up at night one. Then we have the Bills, which is, it's somewhat up there. So the Bills lost to the Chiefs in 2020. They kind of got crushed. This game wasn't really that close. It got a sting to lose to the Chiefs, but at this point, the Bills kind of felt well, we're right there. This was before the 13-second game, so this felt all right, well, this may be the year before the year. I think now you look back on it with kind of feeling a little bit tougher, but at the time, I'm just going to put it in still devastating. Sucks to lose, sucks that, you didn't get to the Super Bowl, but it wasn't the worst. And then you had back-to-back 49ers conference championship game losses. So starting off with the one from 2021 when they lost to the Rams. They had beaten the Rams twice that season and were up relatively big. I mean, if I forget who it was who dropped that interception, but they had a chance to get an interception, which wouldn't have sealed the game, but would have made it good. They dropped it. Wasn't quite able to get it done. Garoppolo didn't have a great game in this one. They were so close. And, I kind of talked about in the Super Bowl one, but just how many devastating losses the Niners have had, in this. They have 3 Super Bowl losses and 2 conference championship game losses in the past, 15 years, and 0 victories to show for it. This one was tough. It wasn't their toughest, but they had a real opportunity. I think kind of why I'm not as going to put it as high is I still think they would have been pretty big underdogs against the Bengals. So because of that, I think still devastating feels fair. I don't know if this was a Super Bowl winning team, but they could have been. They could have been a Super Bowl team, and if you're a Super Bowl team, you could win it. So yeah, there's that. Then the Chiefs, who it would be really easy to look at the Chiefs and say who cares? You guys, you're a dynasty in this stretch. This is the one time you lost in the conference championship game, whatever. But it's worth mentioning that they did not have a great year this year. Once Todd Bowles had his scheme that really disrupted things, in the Super Bowl, the following year, they really struggled. And I think there was a bit of okay, is this not going to go the way we thought it was going to go? Are they not going to be a dynasty? That quickly got extinguished, but at the time, it was relatively tough. Mahomes didn't have a great game, but I still think this is just still devastating because of how much success they've had, in this stretch. Then the Niners again. This is when Brock Purdy gets injured. They lose to, the Eagles kind of get blown out because Purdy's injured. I'm going to put in still devastating as well. Like, your quarterback gets hurt. You kind of know it's over at that point. The Brock Purdy thing was such lightning in a bottle, and the Eagles were favored in this game, but again, kind of an accumulation of it. But we knew good things were to come, and good things have happened, and more good things probably will happen in the future. So because of that, this wasn't the toughest loss for the 49ers by any means. The Cincinnati Bengals then lost to the Chiefs after beating the Chiefs just the following year. Another close game. I didn't think Burrow had his best game in this one. They were right there. There was that, quite frankly, dumb penalty that allowed for the Chiefs to get into field goal range. Chiefs kicked the field goal to win it. That was a really tough end to it. And I do think that, looking back on it, it's like, was that their real chance to maybe win it all? I don't know, because, maybe they could have beaten the Eagles. Didn't happen though. So because of that, I think I'm gonna put it in can't watch highlights. I think that was a little bit tough, and plus, still devastating is getting pretty crowded. So I got to put some higher up, I suppose. So 2 teams left. First is the Detroit Lions, which they're kind of a weird one to pick because, like, first things first. The situation around it was about as undevastating as it could be. Like heading in, it's like, okay, if we lose this game, that's fine. The Lions, haven't had playoff success in forever. They get all the way to the conference championship game. It's like, okay, if we don't beat the Niners, who were favored to lose to, we're expected to lose to. Niners were favorites. What are you gonna do? Well, we're on the right track. But the way they lost, it definitely bumps it up a tier or two because of just how they had it. I mean, they legitimately had that game won and let it slip through their fingers. They made so many mistakes in that fourth quarter. I think I'm going to put it all the way up and still can't watch highlights just because of the game itself was so devastating, even if the situation around it not as devastating. So that's where I'm going with that. And then you have the Ravens, who, again, Ravens have won a Super Bowl not too long ago, but we're getting there now. Where there's people who've been Ravens fans for a decade and weren't paying attention when they won the Super Bowl, right? So you have they want to win one, and they've had some real opportunities. They've gotten really close. Another game where, like, they realistically should have won that game had they not made mistakes. So because of that, this feels like another still can't watch highlights type of game for me. So yeah, that's my tier list. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.